it's often talked about how the owner needs to know up front about exits and all this. I'd like, perhaps starting with Heather, but each of you to answer, how realistic is it at the sales table to really give a focus on the exit or the end of the term or the other options that you might have? Because we talk about that as a solution. How realistic is it? Heather, if you would start, and perhaps.
What do you mean realistic in terms of how it works over the long term, or in terms of getting
realistic on how often it's going to happen? That someone's going to sit at the sales table and talk about the options that you might have about wanting to get out or wanting to change your plan.
Well, I can tell you it works. The developers in Mexico, they're virtually all right to use. Generally 25 to 30 year renewal. The members pay usually between 5 to 10 maintenance fees every 25 years or so in order to renew it for another 25 years. So that gives the options to those families where they do want that legacy vacation. They do want to keep on coming back to that same property for multiple generations. So that resolves that issue, solves that need. But then also for the others that don't want a lifetime obligation, it's a huge selling tool. The developers in Mexico, their minimum efficiencies, we start at $3,000 at 30% close, and I would say they easily average $5,000 efficiencies, and by the way, they run that on about a 35 to 45% sales and marketing cost. Mexico is a great place to invest, and a lot less regulations. So they love it. It works. It gives them everything they want. They have the options to renew and have the generations experience, but then it also gives them the exit, and that is a selling point.
Can I comment on that?
Please.
I rarely go to a sales presentation, whether it's a car, whether it's a house, where in the sales presentation they talk about the exit strategy. And I don't go to a new car dealership, and they're telling me how to exit, how to leave my car and sell it as a used car. But this is part and parcel of one of the problems that we see in the industry is constant communication with the owner. At the sales table, sell a product. That's not a fundamental problem. But over the course of ownership, then maybe you start talking about exit strategies, or at a certain point in the ownership life cycle, you start talking about exit strategies or options for that consumer to take before it goes sideways. I don't know if it's a pitch at the beginning of the sales table, other than, we are not trying to sell you an in perpetuity product, because that seems unrealistic in today's business model, especially with a new buyer. But we need to communicate more effectively with the client over the life of their ownership, in my humble opinion.
I'd like to comment on it also. Part of the reason that folks choose to go with the travel club option is because of the lack of liability. We support the timeshare industry. We're rental revenue generators for the timeshare industry. But the choices of the consumers are changing. There's going to be folks that will want to own their timeshare. We talk to them all the time. This is why we form strategic partnerships with Vermeen's company. And we have other viable solutions for folks that have a demand on their life for more travel or more travel opportunities. And it seems the paradigm shift is on less time. When folks want something now, they want to do it now. Sitting on a sales table talking about an exit strategy for any type of product, there are some people that go out there and do that. But they're also looking for a replacement product, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the timeshare product that they own wasn't good. It's just that their lifestyle has changed, and they might even want to trade it for another timeshare product. Maybe it's a location or an experience-based emotional sale that they're there. But having some type of an exit strategy for these folks, some of them are just looking for it. And if we're not proactive enough to go ahead and develop a system for them, we all see the default rates. We all see legislation changing because we need quicker foreclosures because people are just going to abandon them, especially in economic hardship. So that, again, that's just another thing that, for the future of the timeshare industry, the vacation industry itself, These are things that need to be addressed. It is how people are actually reacting to it. Not everybody's going to. We're not saying to change your style. I remember, last year when we had our comments coming up here, there was some reaction. What we're doing is working. If what you're doing is works for you, and it works in perpetuity, don't change it. We're all out to make our businesses successful. But when the shift in the consumer is telling us we want something different, we don't want to have that burden passed on to our children, for example, or we don't want to have the tax liability, then the industry needs to listen, and we need to come up with different solutions that provide not only a revenue stream for the business, but also a product satisfaction type product for the consumers.
Part of the reason that people don't ask when you're buying a car today, they don't advance that conversation about how I resell that car is because there are viable channels out there that everybody is aware of today. Those don't exist in our industry. But the industry does need to have a clear, viable, real answer to the question that comes up from that consumer who says, when I want to resell this, what do I do? And the vague non-answers that are given today are part of the problem. And so this industry's got to get to the heart of the issue and start to address it at the point of sale. So if that developer is going to restrict benefits when that owner goes to resell it, it seems to me that needs to be disclosed at the point of sale as well. So there are things that I don't think we can avoid or run from like we have in the past.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe comment on this. I think we've seen, when we started 35 years ago, we realized there was going to be a resale problem eventually. We came from the position that we really are kind of selling a kind of asset, a vocational asset. And once an asset, you can't ever liquidate it or get out of it. 35 years ago, we have had a resale program. In fact, a good percentage of our sales every year are resales. As we've got larger, we've got more resales. But if we stop developing, say we just timed out for 4 years and stop developing, we could probably sell out of most of those resales over the next 3, maximum 4 years. I think ultimately, we discussed this forever, what's people going to do about, what are we going to do about the resale issue? The resale issue is resolvable if developers take responsibility for those resales, that made money out selling them originally, and start selling those resales. And I think that's the only solution. I mean, over and above the ultimate solution we just did, I don't think moving forward we do this. Have a term date when you're going to either take them back off the client or give them money back, in our case 100% of what they originally paid for it, in a time frame moving forward. But ultimately, the only solution to resales is not resale companies. They can be your allies, they can go to different markets. It's the developer saying, that's my unit, I don't really want it, that's my product, I don't want it out there in the marketplace selling for $1. That doesn't do you any good for the value proposition. You've got to take as a developer responsibility to taking those units back and selling them yourselves. And we've been doing that for 35 years, so there are resale developers out there, so I wouldn't say it's no resales. And about 10-15% of all our sales every year are resales.
And to make another point on that, if the developers assume the responsibility of providing resales for their consumers, one of the things that we find is the consumer doesn't necessarily want to relinquish the timeshare experience. That's not why they're selling their unit. The reason that they're selling their unit is because they're not getting enough value perspective for the dollars that it costs them on a yearly basis to own it. Being able to go ahead and hybrid a product, white label a product and hybrid a product that can give a consumer more use of their dollar throughout the year is what we're all about. And if we could go ahead and produce a newer type of a product that will give them more usage for their dollar on a 365-day basis, it's going to go ahead and it's going to produce a longer, satisfying experience for the member, and it's going to keep them from wanting to dissolve the actual ownership. Vacation ownership is a fantastic product. The resorts that you folks have, that Orlando has, some of the resorts that we've seen are spectacular resorts. But the consumers have a little bit more of a demand for travel and learning. I mean, we're talking about the millennia type client that we have out there. The younger folks are out there getting their experiences from the internet. They know where they want to go. they know what they want to do, and they have more opportunities to travel the world than I know I did when I was raising my children. So being able to go ahead and put a good branded product together to give the more value perspective for the consumers themselves on a 365-day basis is exactly what we do, and this is what we can do for y'all. And I think it would benefit the future of the industry, because the industry is going to be here for a long time. It's going to outlive us.
Isn't it also, we've had reps and sales representatives in the past saying, you pay $20,000 now, you know, this in 10 years' time, you're going to get your money back. So of course that sticks in the client's head. So I guess we have to police that ourselves, you know. I've looked at the vacation.com website, and there's weeks for sale for $1, for $500. I looked up Phuket and I saw like Marriott weeks for $26,500, but on the same page as the same property, it's like $3,000 or something like that. And that must confuse the hell out of the clients, you know. I think there was the survey last year at ARDA where we were listening to that there was 3 or 4 times more resales happening through resale companies than through developers. But if we want to sell our weeks at $20,000 and the resale companies can sell them for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 or $500, you know, the value proposition that we're offering to clients, we're becoming less attractive, or maybe we're just being too greedy in what we see as what should be our profit. That we should be able to mark up that resort to super astronomical prices. So a question to solve the problem is, like, you know, do we still want to drive our Rolls Royces and fly our private jets, or do we want to cut back a little bit, give the clients a much better proposition? Would that increase the market? Would that reduce that perceived concept that, you know, timeshare is such a bad deal? That's, I think, an issue we're not really looking at.
I think you're touching the most important. I think you're touching the most important part of the resales. What's the value proposition that we do for $35,000 if you can have the same week for $2,000 or $3,000? That's a major point that we resales and developers have to address. And I don't see that much addressing in this review, but that's a key point. It's a key point for you because probably you're asking for very little money. And definitely it's a key point for us because we're not going to increase our $25,000 because, as you said, we want to keep our Rolls Royce and our private jets, right? So we have to work together. Yeah, makes sense, right? So we have to work together on that. I mean, it's not fair that I'm selling a $48,000 interval and then I see that in $8,000. We have to address that. How? I have no idea.
Let's ask how that.
Yeah, I know.
I've got a couple ideas for you. So in the timeshare recyclers, in our model, we want to work with developers. We're never going to solve the problem unless we can get support at the developer level. That's the bottom line. So in our model, we do encourage trade-ins. Why? Because they're buying more timeshare and they're resolving an issue that the consumer, it's not that timeshare is the problem in that transaction. It's just that perhaps you've outgrown the old timeshare, or perhaps your needs have changed. So this other product is a better fit for you. So in a single transaction, they can now receive some sort of consideration for the old timeshare, which means that consumers now believe that timeshare has value. I receive some sort of consideration. We're avoiding having to have them pay all sorts of listing agreements with various advertisers. They're not going to fall victim to a relief scam. We're resolving the problem. They're buying more timeshare. The industry wheels are turning. So at that point, a trading company such as ours would now, after rescission, obviously contact the client. And what we do is we do a quick double check with the client just to make sure. To say, you know, John and Mary, congratulations on your new purchase. Is always very happy. Phone call. But if there was an opportunity for you to perhaps enjoy both your XYZ timeshare and your brand new timeshare, would you like to enjoy both? And our sales staff is trained to just double check. You know, before we do this long transaction, before we take it out of people's hands, let's just make sure that they didn't talk to their grandkids when they got home, and somebody in the family actually wants it. So we check, and in our model, it's the same price. If they want to trade it in, they want to give it back, take it back, it's the same price. So we actually, about 20% of our inventory ends up going back to the original owner to decide, well, if I could have two, then I would like to have two. So just a quick double check. And then the second thing that we do before we even begin the transfer process is we contact the developer and the HOA that we're transferring. So the strategy is that now we can allow developers to be the masters of their own destinies. If they're in active sales, they don't need to see their inventory listed online for $1. If they're an HOA that has a recycling program in place, then that helps them as well. So we always give them the opportunity to take back their own inventory and to take it back for free. The only thing we ask is that they pay for the transaction costs so that we don't have that expense. And then we go through the renting and the reselling and the HOA outreach program. But in terms of reselling, one of our new projects is working with developers in terms of really outlining that certified resale system. And so we are going to have a secondary market. You are going to see lower prices for your intervals out there. But if you can control the channels that your members are utilizing for their resale needs, then you can now start to influence price. Now, one of the problems that resellers have is that it's very difficult to give them an exchange option. And we know that exchange is a critical part of the original sale. Well, because of affiliations and contracts and whatnot, they have to work, if you're an II developer, then it needs to go through II. If it's an RCI developer, you need to go through RCI. But those companies don't have the mechanisms to handle one piece at a time. So one sign at a time, for example. So working directly with a developer as a certified reseller for that developer, well, now we can do things where you buy through Timeshare Recyclers, for example, or whatever other certified reseller, and you're going to have at least the major exchange options. You're going to have not all of the benefits offered at point of sale, but you can have some of the benefits offered at point of sale. And the reason why I recommend not to give a certified reseller all your benefits is because what we want to do is now take that brand new secondary market timeshare owner, wanted to try out your product, liked your product enough to buy it, and make sure that now they're really well qualified to go on your sales presentation for an upgrade. So we don't want to give them all of the benefits that your program offers because then your salespeople don't have anything to upgrade them into. But we do need to give them some. And if we give them some, then we can increase resale prices, we can control, we don't have to have people listing them on eBay for $1. The bottom line is we have to work together in order to find a solution.
But to go from $3,000 to a $25,000 deal on an in-house sale, that's hard on them, don't you?
If you need some tips on sales and marketing, I can help you.
Well, next question, anybody? Yes. Mel.
For me, this question is for you.